If you have to migrate to Jira Cloud soon and you're just freaking out because you're like, oh my gosh, where do I even start? Then this video is going to be just for you, because today we're going to be looking at something that we've never done on this channel before. And we're going to be doing a product showcase on a on-premise app called Optimizer for Jira, made by my good friends over at AppFox, which by the way are sponsoring this video. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop a like if you find value out of this video, and most importantly, don't forget to check out the links down below so you can start your free 30-day trial for Optimizer for Jira.
Don't wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move.
All right, so as I mentioned at the beginning, if you're in this position where you know that server end of life is coming up very, very soon, and you need to quickly make your way on over to the cloud, then this video is going to give you a different perspective of how to approach the problem. Because trust me when I tell you, migrating from on-premise to cloud while Atlassian tries to make it as smooth as possible is actually quite involved. And so what I've learned from all the migrations that I've done is that if you get ahead of the problem by cleaning up and optimizing your Jira first, then the migration aspect becomes a little bit easier, a little bit more simpler, because we took the time to clean up and really optimize Jira before we even do the migration. Now, everything I'm going to be talking about today is going to be kind of like in a use case format, where I'm going to give you experience from my personal pain points of doing a migration without Optimizer, and then kind of taking a look at how Optimizer would have made my life way easier, so that you can essentially learn from my mistakes and not make the same mistakes that I did. And additionally, one other key point that I want to make is that this plugin is just going to be a really good hygienic type of product, where you're just going to be able to see a lot of metadata, a lot of information as to what is actually happening on your on-premise versions of Jira. Now, keep in mind that because this is on-prem, we don't have all the same limitations that we do in the cloud. So you're going to be able to see a lot more information and have a lot more metadata, if you will, when it comes to what exactly is going on with your Jira. Because in the cloud, all that stuff is a little bit more limited by the APIs and what Atlassian enables. And so here we're going to see a lot of really cool stuff. And finally, this will work for migrations. And it's also going to work if you're doing mergers. So if you're trying to bring in another Jira into your on-premise, or maybe you're just trying to get two on-premise over to the cloud, whatever your situation may be, it's always a good idea to run these optimizer checks so that you can have the best jumping platform, right? You want a clean baseline, because once you start the migration, a lot of those complexities are going to come from having a very complex Jira. But if we can get ahead of it, if we can get cleaned up before it, then we're going to be setting ourselves up for future success, and future us is going to really, really appreciate the things we're going to be doing now. So let's jump into Jira and take a look at Optimizer for Jira. All right, so first things first, if you've been watching any of my videos, this is going to look a little bit differently, because guess what? We are not in Jira Cloud. This is only going to be an on-premise thing. So make sure you are on Jira on-premise. But for everybody else who's always asked me for an on-premise video, here it is. Special thanks again to AppFox for making this video possible. All right, so in order to get to Optimizer, we're going to click on this little gear over here, and we're going to click on Optimizer here. Now from here, we're greeted with our health check. This is probably the biggest, most important starting point, because the health check is going to give you this 50,000 foot view of your Jira. Now my grade is a B-, which in my book is a passing score, but you might not be faring so well. And if you have a lower grade, if you don't have as much green happening here, then I would caution you and advise you to really, really pay attention to this video, because this Optimizer plugin is going to make your life a little bit easier, and we're going to want to make our grade as green as possible, get the highest grade as possible before we even think about doing these migrations. Because trust me, if there was a time that you can go back to make your life easier, it would be right now, when you're running this Optimizer for Jira, and you're going to thank yourself in the future. All right, so what is this health check telling us? Well, it's giving us, again, a 50,000 foot view of everything that's going on in our Jira, and we can click on these like yellow and red items. Well, in fact, we can click on all of them, but if they're green, if they're already passed, then thumbs up, right? Let's focus on the problems here. And so we got yellow and we got red. And so I'm just gonna pick this project one here. And as you can see, this gives us a lot of very easy to understand and useful information. So we're gonna see projects that have too many permission schemes. Well, guess what? The Optimizer didn't find any, so great. right? We're going to find small and empty projects. Well, guess what? It didn't find any. Great. They're green. But it did give us a warning on inactive projects. We have quite a few inactive projects. And if you're like, now I got to go find those projects. Well, no. You just simply click here and you're going to see the warning, right? You have your warning, 38 inactive projects found. But if you look carefully, you're going to be able to click on this little arrow and here they are, right? So we have 4 pages worth of inactive projects. And now you have the projects that are on your hit list, right? So these are the ones you're going to want to go and focus on and start figuring out what do we do with them? Do we delete them? Do we merge them, right? What else do you want to do with them, right? So that's where you're going to be able to figure that out. And again, you can go through this list. And as you click on the various different types, right, this time we're going to click on custom fields. We can see that we are going to see unused custom fields and we're going to see global custom fields. Now this global custom fields is very important because there's another key feature we're going to talk about in just a minute, but it's going to play a role when we talk about global custom fields. So keep that in mind because we're going to be referring back to global custom fields in a second. But again, very similar to the project one, click on it and you're going to be able to see, hey, we got a warning. We got 82 custom fields, which can be optimized. Again, keyword optimized. We'll talk about that in a second. You can expand it. And here's a look at 9 pages worth of custom fields that have the potential to be optimized. So again, you got the gist of how this works. All you got to do is click on it and it's going to give you a lot of useful metadata. So that is the health checks. Up next, we're going to go and look at all the different reports that are available to you. And so you can kind of see from a, again, holistic type of view, what's going on with your Jira. So we got 4 different types of reports. We're going to have a usage, system report, project report, and history report. Let's look at the usage report because I think this is one of the more important ones, right? So this usage report is going to show us which items have been deleted by Optimizer for Jira. So this is going to show us, hey, how much effectivity have we gotten out of this tool? Because one of the main popular questions that you usually ask yourself when you're getting a plugin is it worth it? Is it worth paying for these plugins? Well, sometimes you use them, sometimes you don't use them, but I really like that you have a usage report here. So it actually shows you how effective you've been with actually using your plugin. So obviously the more things that you clean up, the more things that you're, tidying up here, this is going to show you that you've done more and more and more. So as you can see here, we've essentially deleted 27 projects, 89 custom fields, and so on and so forth, right? So really, really good usage report here. We also get a system report that gives you a little bit of a metadata for what's going on with your actual server, right? Your installation of Jira on your machine. And so this is going to give you a lot of good information there. We have a project report. You're going to be able to click on a specific project that you want. Let's do this AWS migration. You're going to see all the metadata for that project, the issue types involved, the workflows, the screens, the custom fields, other schemes, right? So again, a lot of cool things happening with these reports. And then finally, we have this history report, which is going to show you the number of items your system has changed over time. And so again, just very, very nerdy, geeky information if you want it. I'm not going to do anything specific with it because up next, we're going to jump into management, which is really where we're going to start focusing on what information do we get out of this section. So we're going to start off with users. I want to really take a second here to talk about users because one of the biggest pain points that I have with the migration is that if you have a lot of users, if you have a lot of inactive users in your server version of Jira, that's cool. But when you move to the cloud, you're paying for every single one of those users, whether they're active or inactive and whether they're using Jira or not. And if you have duplicate users, right, users with duplicate emails, then guess what? You're really going to pay 2, 3, 4 times for as many duplicate users as you have because Jira Cloud doesn't care. Every single email is a unique user. And every single user is going to yield you a nice $15.25 bill. And so again, not as forgiving in Jira Cloud. So you want to be very, very careful here and you want to clean up these users before you bring them over to the cloud because otherwise you just got to deal with them then. So over here, I recommend you go at least 90 days. That's my preference. I would go, hey, find me every user that hasn't logged in the last 90 days. And also has never logged in at all because again in Jira Cloud, if you enable a license to them, whether they log in and use it or not, Atlassian doesn't care. You get a nice $15 bill for every individual. So if you click on this find users, it's going to go and look for these individuals. And so you want to basically find all these rotten tomatoes, if you will, right? These are great candidates for cleanup. You want to get rid of them now because again in the cloud, you're gonna have a much smoother experience, right? So you want to take a look at that. And then other than that, right, everything else is kind of very, very specific. So as you can see, you have your projects, your boards, your issue types, your workflows, your screens, custom fields, attributes, schemes, right? Everything that you have going on. We're only going to touch on a couple of items because there's a couple of these that I want you to be very mindful, and I want to give you a couple of key points here because they're going to help preparing for your migration. And again, I'm just trying to give you the pain points, the suffering that I've already gone through so that you don't have to go through that same suffering. So in this project section, right, a couple of things that I want to tell you about is we're looking at what's called a smart tables. These smart tables are going to go in and bring data from these individual projects, but you have options over here on the right hand side, and these options are going to let you alter the view that you're seeing, right? So if you want to bring in more issues, you can do that. If you want to bring in more columns, you can do that, right? So you have all this information that you can bring in and make this information as granular or ungranular as you want, right? So the more metadata you want to display, you can do that here by clicking on the options section. That's the smart tables. And again, every single one of these sections, the boards, right? When you click on these, they're going to show you very similar information. They're going to work in this very smart way. So get familiar with the options, get familiar with reloading your data so you can get all the data all the time, right? And so from here, you're going to be able to make selections. You're going to be able to delete items right here, right? So if you just don't want this board anymore, because look, it was only accessed 2 times and the last time it was accessed was 2 years ago, why do we want to bring that to the cloud, right? Well, we don't want it. So we can just simply click the delete button there, and we're going to be able to delete things from here. And if you want to delete things in bulk, right, one of the cool features is we don't have to just do one by one, right? So if you want to delete a whole bunch, you can do that and then click on that delete button. It's going to tell us, hey, we're going to delete it either now or add it to a queue. I'm most likely going to hit always delete now. And again, I'm not going to delete it because it's not my Jira, but you have that option to essentially in bulk delete a whole bunch of stuff. So that's really, really cool there. And again, same thing's going to happen with the issue types and the workflows and everything else. You can bulk delete, bulk review, bulk do whatever you want to do so that you're not wasting precious time doing one by one. And so this is going to help you out a lot. Now, one area that I do want to focus is on custom fields. So if you've been using Jira for a while, you know that as an administrator, we create custom fields like Oprah, right? And so we have a whole lot of custom fields. It may be possible that when you're looking at the custom fields here, the scope, screens, and issue count data will not show for you, but worry not. All you got to do is click this little refresh button here, and it's going to reload and show you all the extra data. And now you can see if this custom field is a global or if it belongs to a specific issue type or a project. You'll be able to understand how many screens that particular custom field is in. And probably most importantly, and my favorite part, is that you're going to be able to see how many issues are actually using that specific custom field. So this is really, really good data. You can go click on this and then actually see what is actually being used by that custom field. And now you can make more strategic decisions. But even more importantly, we're going to have merge fields. And this is going to allow us to basically take 2 custom fields together by copying the issue values from one custom field, the source, to another, the destination. And so this is going to work if you have items that are basically the same custom field type, right? So they have to be the same type, and you're limited to these supported items here. And so this is a really great way of, again, before you move over to the cloud, you don't want to bring in baggage. You don't want to bring in over this extra dead weight. Why not take the second, since you are doing a migration, you are doing a merger, to essentially clean up, have a cleaner slate so that your migration experience is that much better, because garbage in is garbage out. And so if you're just going to bring all the garbage over to the cloud, then you're going to continue that decade-long just series of bad practices. So take the moment here. If you have multiple custom fields that are very, very similar, just merge them together, make your life a little bit easier. And we also have the optimized custom fields, which is going to allow us to essentially take these custom fields that are at a global setting and apply them to a specific project, because there is no point in having these like global custom fields that are available for everybody when these custom fields are usually only created for a specific project. And so we're going to be able to do that here. We can do a scan here that's going to go and look for all those fields and basically make us a list, which we looked at earlier. So if you remember from the beginning of the video, Jira had already told us that there was a bunch of custom fields that could use some optimization. This is where we're going to be able to use that customization here. And so let me walk you through a quick demo on how to use this optimizer, because this is actually really quite cool. Now, all you're going to want to do is refresh these scope, screens, issue count, and projects just so that you see all the metadata. What we're seeing here is that all of these custom fields, that search, that scan that I did moments ago, is identifying any custom field that is of the scope global. So as you can see here, everything here is global. But while it's great that we're going to clean up any global ones, the one example that I'm going to walk you through is I'm going to clean up a global custom field that is used across many different projects. Because right now it's global, which basically means this custom field can be used anywhere. And it's inefficient, right? It's using up some valuable resources that you probably don't want. But because we know that some of these are being used by specific projects, we're going to be able to condense these and actually specify the scope so that under the hood, all of this is a little bit more efficient. So are you going to want to select the custom field in question? This one is global, has 8 screens, 609 issues, and it's related to 5 projects. But right now it's global. And so once you select it, we're going to click the select fields over here. It's going to do its thing. And now it's basically going to show you is going to say, hey, here's that custom field, here's the type it is, but here's the new scope. So the tool itself is going to go and get you the recommendation. So you don't have to go figure it out. It's going to recommend, hey, these are the 5 projects you want. Here's the issue type that it's associated to. And once you hit this magical button down here, there's an optimize button here, then it's going to go and do its thing. So as you can see, it went and did it and it says complete. But now all we got to do is remember the name here, change risk. We're going to copy this. We're going to go back to our custom fields. There's no point in me going to the optimized fields because it's not going to show up in the scan anymore because it's not global. But if I go look it up, you're going to see that now when I refresh the scope here, the scope rather than it being global now belongs to the issue type and to the project. And so finally, the last thing I want to talk about are filters, right? So this is in beta, but out of all the migrations that I've done, filters is the biggest pain point. Those filters do not come over very easily when you're doing your migration. And most importantly, because those filters don't come over, then the dashboards don't work very well. And so you want to make sure that you clean up and that you pay special attention to your filters before you move to the cloud, because it is going to make your life way, way more easier. So take a look at your filters here. Anything that is private is going to be a big problem for you. Anything that is private and belongs to an inactive user, an even more bigger problem for you. So make sure you take care of these, right? Make sure you kind of go in this order of operations, right? Clean up your projects, clean up your issue types, clean up everything. And then by the time you get to your filters, it's going to be much more easier to go, we don't need all this stuff, right? And so the least number of filters that you need to move over to the cloud, the better, the less headache, because guess what? You will have to, after you migrate your information, you will have to recreate these filters. So there's functionality here of being able to look at your filters. Very, very key, because most of the time you forget that you have all these filters. And when you do the migration, well, then it becomes a big giant mess, right? So take advantage of the fact that Optimizer for Jira is going to bring to light all these filters, give you all this useful information, and then you can be able to make a better and smarter decision. So that's it for this product showcase. Again, I wish I would have had this Optimizer for Jira before I did my migrations. I think it just makes your life a little bit easier because, again, the migration itself is going to happen, right? You're going to be able to use that migration assistant tool from Atlassian, but the number of headaches you're going to have post-migration is going to be infinitely higher if you don't do any cleanup or optimization before you do the migration. So if you learn anything from this video is before you're doing your migration is do the due diligence and clean up. Utilize this Optimizer for Jira to help highlight, to help bring to light all the different problem areas that you have so that once you do the migration, that whole process of doing the migration and life after the migration is a little bit smoother for you and for future you. So be kind to future you. Do your due diligence now. Use this optimizer. Check out the links down below so you can start your trial of Optimizer for Jira. That's it for this video. Make sure you drop a like, make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.